again, welcome back for another couple of chapters of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. We're going to read chapters 15 and 16 today, and then I've got 5 quiz questions for you to answer at the end. Alright, so chapter 15 is the chocolate room. An important room this, cried Mr. Wonka, taking a bunch of keys from his pocket and slipping one into the keyhole of the door. This is the nerve centre of the whole factory, the heart of the whole business, and so beautiful. I insist upon my rooms being beautiful. I can't abide ugliness in factories. In we go, but do be careful, my dear children. Don't lose your heads. Don't get overexcited. Keep very calm. Mr. Wonka opened the door. 5 children and 9 grown-ups pushed their way in, and oh, what an amazing sight it was that now met their eyes. They were looking down upon a lovely valley. There were green meadows on each side of the valley, and along the bottom of it there flowed a great brown river. What is more, was a tremendous waterfall halfway along the river, a steep cliff over which the water curled and rolled in a solid sheet, and then went crashing down into a boiling, churning whirlpool of froth and spray. Below the waterfall, and this was the most astonishing sight of all, a whole mass of enormous glass pipes were dangling down into the river from somewhere high up in the ceiling. There really were enormous those pipes. They must have been a dozen of them at least, and they were sucking up the brownish muddy water from the river and carrying it away to goodness knows where. And because they were made of glass, you could see the liquid flowing and bubbling along inside them. And above the noise of the waterfall, you could hear the never-ending sucking sound of the pipes as they did their work. Graceful trees and bushes were growing along the river banks. Weeping willows and alders and tall clumps of rhododendrons with their pink and red mauve blossoms. In the meadows there were thousands of buttercups. There, cried Mr. Wonka, dancing up and down and pointing his old gold-topped cane at the great brown river. It's all chocolate. Every drop of that river is hot melted chocolate of the finest quality, the very finest quality. There's enough chocolate in there to fill every bathtub in the entire country, and all the swimming pools as well. Isn't it terrific? And just look at my pipes. They suck up the chocolate and carry it away to all the other rooms in the factory where it's needed. Thousands of gallons an hour, my dear. Thousands and thousands of gallons. The children and their parents were too flabbergasted to speak. They were staggered. They were dumbfounded. They were bewildered and dazzled. They were completely bowled over by the hugeness of the whole thing. They simply stood and stared. The waterfall is most important, Mr. Wonka went on. It mixes the chocolate, it churns it up, pounds it and beats it. It makes it light and frothy. No other factory in the world mixes its chocolate by waterfall, but it's the only way to do it properly. The only way. And do you like my trees? He cried, pointing with his stick. And my lovely bushes. Don't you think they look pretty? I told you, I hate ugliness. And of course they are all edible. All made of something different and delicious. Do you like my meadows? Do you like my grass and buttercups? The grass you're standing on, my dear little ones, is made of a new kind of soft minty sugar that I've just invented. I call it swudge. Try a blade. Please do. It's delectable. Automatically, everybody bent down and picked up one blade of grass. Everybody, that is, except Augustus Gloop, who took a big handful. And Violet Brigard, before tasting her blade of grass, took the piece of world record-breaking chewing gum out of her mouth and stuck it carefully behind her ear. Isn't it wonderful? Whispered Charlie. Hasn't it got a wonderful taste, Grandpa? I could eat the whole field, said Grandpa Joe, grinning with delight. I could go around on all fours like a cow and eat every blade of grass in the field. Try a buttercup, said Mr. Wonka. They're even nicer. Suddenly the air was filled with screams of excitement. The screams came from Veruca Salt. She was pointing frantically to the other side of the river. Look! Look over there! She screamed. What is it? He's moving. He's walking. It's a little person. It's a little man. Down there by the waterfall. Everybody stopped picking buttercups and stared across the river. She's right, Grandpa, cried Charlie. It is a little man. Can you see him? I see him, Charlie, said Grandpa Joe excitedly. And now everybody started shouting at once. There's 2 of them. My gosh, so there is. There's more than 2. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What are they doing? Where do they come from? Who are they? Children and parents alike rushed down to the edge of the river to get a closer look. Aren't they fantastic? No higher than my knee. Look at their funny long hair. The tiny men, they were no larger than a medium-sized doll, had stopped what they were doing and now they were staring back across the river at the visitors. One of them pointed towards the children and then whispered something to the other 4, and all 5 of them burst into peals of laughter. But they can't be real people, Charlie said. Of course they're real people, Mr. Wonka answered. They're Oompa-Loompas. Oompa-Loompas, everyone said at once. Oompa-Loompas. Imported direct from Lumperland, said Mr. Wonka proudly. There's no such place, said Mrs. Salt. Excuse me, dear lady, but... Mr. Wonka, cried Mrs. Salt, I'm a teacher of geography. Oh, then you'll know all about it, said Mr. Wonka. And oh, what a terrible country it is. Nothing but thick jungles infested by the most dangerous beasts in the world. Horns, wogglers and snozzwangers and those terrible wicked wangdoodles. A wangdoodle would eat 10 Oompa-Loompas for breakfast and come galloping back for a second helping. When I was out there, I found the little Oompa-Loompas living in tree houses. They had to live in tree houses to escape from the wangdoodles and the horn wogglers and the snozzwangers, and they were living on green caterpillars, and the caterpillars tasted revolting. And the Oompa-Loompas spent every moment of their days climbing through the treetops looking for other things to mash up with the caterpillars, to make them taste better. Red beetles, for instance, and eucalyptus leaves, and the bark of the bonbon tree, all of them beastly, but not quite so beastly as the caterpillars. Poor little Oompa-Loompas. The one food they longed for more than any other was the cacao bean. But they couldn't get it. An Oompa-Loompa was lucky if he found 3 or 4 cacao beans a year. But how they craved them. They used to dream about cacao beans all night and talk about them all day. You only had to mention the word cacao to an Oompa-Loompa and he would start dribbling at the mouth. The cacao bean, Mr. Wonka continued, which grows on a cacao tree, happens to be the thing from which all chocolate is made. You cannot make chocolate without the cacao bean. The cacao bean is chocolate. I myself use billions of cacao beans every week in this factory. And so, my dear children, as soon as I discovered that the Oompa-Loompas were crazy about this particular food, I climbed up to their treehouse village and poked my head in through the door of the treehouse belonging to the leader of the tribe. The poor little fellow, looking thin and starved, was sitting there trying to eat a bowl full of mashed up green caterpillars without being sick. Look here, I said, speaking not in English, of course, but in Oompa-Loompa-ish. Look here, if you and all your people will come back to my country and live in my factory, you can have all the cacao beans you want. I've got mountains of them in my storehouses. You can have cacao beans for every meal. You can gorge yourselves silly on them. I'll even pay your wages in cacao beans if you wish. You really mean it? Asked the Oompa-Loompa leader, leaping up from his chair. Of course I mean it, I said. And you can have chocolate as well. Chocolate tastes even better than cacao beans because it's got milk and sugar added. The little man gave a great whoop of joy and threw his bowl of mashed caterpillars right out of the treehouse window. It's a deal, he cried. Come on, let's go. So I shipped them all over here, every man, woman and child in the Oompa-Loompa tribe. It was easy. I smuggled them over in a large packing case with holes in them, and they all got here safely. They are wonderful workers. They all speak English now. They love dancing and music. They are always making up songs. I expect you will hear a good deal of singing today from time to time. I must warn you, though, that they are rather mischievous. They like jokes. They still wear the same kind of clothes they wore in the jungle. They insist upon that. The men, as you can see for yourselves, across the river wear only deer skins. The women wear leaves and the children wear nothing at all. The women use fresh leaves every day. Daddy, shouted Veruca Salt, the girl who got everything she wanted. Daddy, I want an Oompa-Loompa. I want you to get me an Oompa-Loompa. I want an Oompa-Loompa right away. I want to take it home with me. Go on, Daddy, get me an Oompa-Loompa. Now, my pet, her father used to say to her. You mustn't interrupt Mr. Wonka. But I want an Oompa-Loompa, cried Veruca. All right, Veruca, all right. But I can't get it for you this second. Please be patient. I'll see you have one before this day is out. Augustus! Shouted Mrs. Gloop. Augustus, sweetheart! I don't think you had better do that. Augustus Gloop, as you might have guessed, had quietly sneaked down to the edge of the river, and he was now kneeling on the riverbank, scooping hot, melted chocolate into his mouth as fast as he could. Silly, silly Augustus. Okay, questions. Now, there's only 5 today. Feeling a bit kind. So the first question is, what does Mr. Wonka refer to as the nerve centre of his factory, so the heart of his factory? Was it the very nervous system, the great glass elevator, the chocolate room, or the inventing room? Which one? It was the chocolate room, because that's even the name of the chapter. That's the name of chapter 15. Okay, what churns a chocolate river? Was it a waterfall, a chocolate mill, peppermint pipes, or fish from Loompa-land? What churns the chocolate river? That's what makes it turn like that. Of course, it was the waterfall that's made of chocolate, of course. Who denies the existence of Loompa-land? So who says it's not real, it doesn't exist? Is it Mrs. Gloop, so Augustus's mum, Mrs. Salt, Veruca's mum, Grandpa Joe, Charlie's grandpa, or Mr. Salt, which is Veruca's dad? Who denies that it exists? Of course, it's Mrs. Salt, who is a geography teacher. Okay, number 4. The Oompa-Loompas' favourite food is cocoa beans, marshmallows, orange sorbet, or gummy bears. Of course, it's the cocoa beans, which is what Mr. Wonka says he'll pay them in. Okay, last question. Who warns Augustus Gloop not to go too close to the river? Is it Mr. Wonka, Mrs. Gloop, so his mum, Charlie, or the Oompa-Loompas? Who warns him not to go too close? It's his mum, Mrs. Gloop. Does he listen? We'll have to wait and find out till next time. Okay, see you later. Bye.